So Pietro, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you to everyone for inviting me, above all, and to listen to me. As Alessandro said, I'm not the opposite, but let's say complementary to the to the other speech, but to Mohammed's speech. But however, I hope to give you new insight, above all, on virtual reality. That is one of the tools that I use, and also in clinical issues. And as Alessandro said, I'm a psychologist, in particular psychometrician. I work at the Department of Psychology of the University of Turin, and also at Applied Technology for Neuropsychology Lab, that is a lab inside an hospital. We are in Istituto Oxologico Italiano in Milan, in Piedmont, in Lombardy, a set of 15 hospitals. And in particular, in our hospital, we also use virtual reality with a cave, that is a virtual reality room that also I will show you. But before all, in this next hour, I would like to show you which is the let's say, how to start. Let's start on behavior. So I just want to show you something of behavior in nature, for example. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Okay. A behavior in nature that is something fantastic, like the nature can show his behavior, and in this image we can see a collective behavior in particular. But our question of scientists, it's how to manage, how to work on this particular behavior, and in particular, if we have something like this, how we can recreate this in a laboratory setting to study, to understand, to model this collective behavior. You are better than me in creating models, so I just included some model. For example, this is the same model of the fishes that is integrated in a computer model that just is used to analyze the behavior of that fish that act as a rule, not just as alone. And following simple rule, we can create this environment. However, this is, for example, the animal behavior, but we also have human behavior. For example, in this video, we can see a model of a railway station, and as you can see, we modeled a train. This is a simulation to understand how to manage the passenger of this station, and how to manage by using both virtual reality and a simulation system. This is a simulation done in AnyLogic, that is a budget-based model program, and you can study all the flows, all the people behavior that you are studying. But actually this is not virtual reality. Virtual reality is something different, so we will see also how this works. And above all, in collective behavior, we can see that the human behavior is more complex than other kind of behavior. For example, we have here a street. I can go ahead and to show you other solution. As you can see, this is another solution to manage traffic behavior, and we can do something like this, or this, or this, or this. I like so much this one because there is no limit to human complexity and human behavior. Actually, we should also include here the economic evaluation of this, the cost of this solution. So this is not just about the cost, but collective behavior, human, it's more complex than this. I like so much these figures where you can see how something like to one who says really excel, and people listening start to sell, and then someone says goodbye, and people listen by and start to buy. This is a typical behavior of misunderstanding, but you know, human complex is very complex, so it's not easy to understand. So this was just a short introduction to human behavior, because in social dynamics we could have a lot of human behavior, of course, and the question as scientists is how to model this behavior, this human behavior. We have a different solution. If we work with just one individual, it's easy, and I will show you also some virtual reality in particular settings, but also maybe Mohammed, or the talk before I listened about biofeedback system. Yes, Mohammed, I think, listened about biofeedback systems that are also interesting to work with one. But what happens if you work with two individuals, for example? We have a lot of models from mathematics, that is entropy, mutual information, characterization, complex systems that worked on two individuals, and also on many individuals, for example, with networked social network analysis and things like that, but also by using mathematical approach, theoretical, empirical, social, and ubiquitous approach, and also virtual reality for collective behavior. And we have what I like so much, that is the artificial complex networks that can be used in with a mathematical approach, but is also based on psychological aspects, because you can include human behavior and human factors into the models. And we can do this with, for example, agent-based model, with artificial intelligence, machine learning approach. We will see later these approaches. But if we are speaking about behavior dynamics, we want to probably understand how does it works, the dynamics among individuals, by using diffusion models that are well known in virus literature. For example, a typical example is the SIR models, SIR model or other model like this, that can be easily converted in, for example, in mathematical model. For example, here, as you can see, we have a system dynamics model. It's very easy, where we have male and female, and we see the adaptation rate, the contagion rate, based on this system dynamic model. It's quite easy to create this model, and it's quite easy to manage it, to understand the parameters to use. But of course, these are theoretical models that you have to validate empirically. And the same thing is if you work with many agents, and you work with agent-based model, even with the social networks, with the backend. This is a social network that manage the interaction among agents. If you have, as you can see, a fully connected network on the right, and the left a less connected network, the diffusion level changes. So we can include also in an agent-based model, and to work on model like this, that it's an agent-based model that allow you to study and to interact. But my problem, I'm also a statistician, a mathematician, so I love this kind of model. But my problem as a psychologist is that we need to have this model driven by reality. So how to manage real human behavior in simulation, in human in using simulation, agent-based simulation, or other approach, or other mathematical approach. So we have to understand, to go one step back. So let's start in understanding what is computational psychometrics in my vision. Of course, we have to use psychology and computer science, as you've seen, mathematical statistics, because a mathematical model, computational model, like agent-based model, need to have more psychology. But need to have more psychology is saying nothing, because what does it mean? We need more psychology. We need to include human behavior in the models. But how to include human behavior in the model? One of the possible solutions is the use of virtual reality. Virtual reality is for computational scientists like a Luna Park, because you can do everything. You are in realistic situation, but you can track everything. You can track the behavior, you can track how people go through the words, you can track the path, you can track the event, you can track even the physiological data if you have any. So, in my point of view, virtual reality is the way in which we can include human behavior in mathematical model, agent-based model, and other computational model. So we need one step back again. What is it? What is virtual reality? So now in my speech I will show you how virtual reality works, how it is used. But to do this, since I'm a researcher, I want to see what there is in literature. Literature in virtual reality is composed by 21,5061 articles today. So a huge amount of articles. I do not have time to show you all the article in just 1 hour. So what I did as a computational scientist is to do a computational analysis of literature. What is this is a scientometrics analysis. It's just a computational analysis of virtual reality article. I included all the 21,000 articles in virtual reality taken from Web of Science database. And as you can see, first of all, here is that there are a lot of discipline, includes engineering, computer science, but also radiology, psychology, neuroscience, neurology, psychiatry, optics, geoscience, so many science all included. But of course, engineering, psychology, neuroscience, psychology are the huge amount of information of article. And what about the authors? As you can see here, we have a quiz. As you can see, a set of groups. We have here, I don't know if you see the mouse pointer, but you have here in the central part Riva groups. That is an historical. Riva is my head in Istituto Oxologico Italiano. Is the laboratory founders, let's say. I am the lab manager, but he is the lab founder of Applied Technology for Neuropsychology Lab, and he worked for 25 years in virtual reality, and above all in therapy and psychotherapy, so virtual reality for clinical use. He is the first one worldwide for scientific publication. I am the 8th at the moment, but there is time, you know, to manage also this. And here we have on the left upper side, we have an American group of Arguel, Darcy, Slater. Slater it's in UK. It's one of the maybe the most cited scientists worldwide in virtual reality. And I will show you also some works from Slater that are very, very interesting. And we have other groups, Helmkamp groups and so on. It's not a huge community. It's a small community, but it's very cohesive, interactive community. So I think it's interesting to see also this. This is the situation of the article. So, of course, this is something that cannot be understood because it's too much complex. So what I did is to create with the computational analysis a clusters, and I included a variable that is time, and I reached this interesting figure that allow you to see that virtual reality history up to 90s was just technological issues and creating environments, special effect tutorials, maybe something in neurosurgery as representation. Something changed in the 90s, and we have a first phase of therapy and laparoscopic skills that are clinical issues. So we see the first intervention in psychotherapy, in particular the phobias that are the first step of virtual reality, of course. But what happens in 2000 is that there is a new wave of virtual reality up to today that is above all therapy, rehabilitation and gaming, and laparoscopy skills. This is enough a clear scenario. Of course, this is a scientific publication scenario. But what we can see is that virtual reality today is above all clinical issues, is above all clinical. Therapy, like psychotherapy and rehabilitation and gaming, most of them are serious gaming for clinical issues. And then laparoscopy skills that are training for surgeries, for laparoscopic, that is techniques in surgery. And there is something else. Of course, this is, how to say, a panorama for scientific publication. If you look at industrial patents, for example, the situation is totally different because the gaming industry is more prominent than health or things like that. But as scientific publication, most of the interest in the last 5-10 years, it's above all in clinical issues. So this was just a panorama of virtual reality for scientific literature. But let's see how virtual reality works. So maybe that you all have tried or listened about virtual reality and head-mounted display. These are like monitors, but imagine that you have a monitor in front of your, a real monitor, in front of your face. If you look ahead and below and around you with the monitor in your hand, the image does not change. But if you use this kind of monitor in front of the face, there is a tracker, a motion tracker, that is able to track your position, your head with the gyroscope and accelerometers, the head position and head movements. So when you look on your right, the virtual environment changes accordingly. And the same thing in all the direction in which you can see. So the result is that with this technique, you are like immersed in these virtual environments. And if you look around, you see all the things inside the virtual reality. And I want to show you this short video of a girl that for the first time, this is in our laboratory actually, in Auxologico, where a girl for the first time tried to use virtual reality. Com'è? Okay, so the girls look at the virtual reality and says, but that is sun, and say, and I ask her, and how it is, and she says, I want to change work. So she's so pleased to see these fantastic words. She's so surprised also to see these virtual words that she's so impressed, and as you can see. And this is just with the head-mounted display. But what I want to show you next is this room that we have also in our laboratory. That is the cave. The cave, if you see the subject inside the cave, if you see these figures, you can see this is an angle. So this is a room. The person, this girl is inside a room, okay? This is the angle. And as you can see, she is inside like a room without roof, but she has 3 walls around there, and she's so immersed in these 3D virtual environments. How we get this? We get this with 4 video projectors, one for the walls and the other for the floor. Okay, 3 each one for the 3 floor and the other one for the floor, and this allows us to manage all the virtual environments in this virtual room. You can see that there are 2 settings. On the left bottom side you have the projector inside the room, and on the right bottom part you see the projector outside of the room. Of course, the projector outside of the room are better because you do not have shadows when you go close to the wall, and the resolution is also better. But if you have a space problem, like us in a hospital, we had 2 cave. We have 2 cave, and one of the 2 cave is in a small room, so we opted for the left bottom side solution. The other cave has a larger room, and we opted for the retroprojected solution. Both are quite good solution for virtual reality. How does it work? Let's see in this video. Okay, as you can see, she's moving with the joypad, and she moves in the city. When she go down, the environments change accordingly. She's like immersed in this city, so she is able to see herself in this city. But there is also some interaction that you can do. This is my colleagues from MIT that come to see the cave. And as you can see, he is in a restaurant. You see not so well because it's a 3D environment, so he see perfectly in front of him, he see the table and so on. And as you can see, he start to move in the environment without the joypad. So, what can be done with these wonderful environments? One of the first applications that I told you before, it's the phobias. For example, arachnophobias, it's a typical example that you can treat in virtual environments. It's easy to use virtual reality for phobias because you can show the phobia problems like the arachnoid in the spider. Okay, this is just a spider phobia, of course. You can show a spider in a protected environment. Normally, if you are a clinician and you want to treat this kind of phobia, what you do is to start with a very small spider in a video. But this is not effective, such as to touch the spider or to see the spider in front of you. In virtual reality, you can show the spider, but the patient knows that this spider is fake. So it's not real. But actually, what virtual reality showed in thousands of articles is that this can be an effective treatment even if you know that it's fake. And then, above all, you transfer the training that you did in virtual reality, you are able to transfer this training in a real setting. So people have the chance to have no more arachnophobia as before by using just virtual reality. So this is has been the first use for arachnophobia, for virtual reality. generally the phobias, every phobias, okay? And then you can do things that in real environment you cannot do. For example, if you have a spider, you can have a spider in your hand, then you can have a spider that is small, then larger and larger and larger. So as a clinician, you can work on desensitization protocols that works on growing complexity of the stimulus to treat. So this is very important for clinicians. But of course, phobias are not the only use. Other use are, for example, the acrophobia, the extreme or irrational fear or phobia of height. And of course, in virtual reality, this is very easy. Here, this girl is using a Samsung Gear that is an head-mounted display that inside already have these environments, and if a clinician use that environment, so I can use these environments to treat this acrophobia. So this is another example where you can include growing complexity stimulus, and when you start you are at the ground, then you start the first floor, then second floor, and so on up to go to the 20 or 30 floors. Okay, so it's increasing difficulties. Another interesting example used above all by managers in virtual reality is the glossophobia, or the speech anxiety, that is a fear of public speaking. Of course, virtual reality allows you the chance to try your talk in front of a virtual public. So as you can see the figure, you have avatars, and you can also manage the behavior of this avatar. For example, you can, as clinicians, you can have all the avatars that are boring or interacting or doing things or going away and so on. As you can easily understand, this can be used for all the situation and to overcome the fear of public speaking. And of course, this is also used in a positive way, as empowerment tool to improve the quality of speaking. So if I'm a manager, I want to improve the quality of my public speaking, probably this environment is perfect for me. So I can improve this. Other application, this is a classical application, is the virtual reality in military setting for post-traumatic stress disorder. In the States, there are a lot of examples of veterans that come back from the war or war zone and show post-traumatic stress disorder, and virtual reality is an easy way to treat this kind of disorder, because you are in front of the stimulus that is complex to manage for you. So this is a typical example to use virtual reality as exposition. I expose you in front of problematic stimulus, and I teach you as clinicians to manage that stimulus and to work on that stimulus. So this is another classical example. A very interesting example has been discovered by Hunting Hoffman, that is a researcher that tried to work with virtual reality, not for PTSD, sorry for the error, but for pain. Virtual reality for pain has been discovered by Hoffman because he had several patients in his clinicians that suffering of great pain from burn, and these are very, very extreme pain situation. And since it was pain from burn, he tried to create a virtual environment that is called snow world, so showing a lot of snow. And actually this environment worked a lot to reduce pain in these patients. So what happens is that he tried to do a series of measures in magnetic resonance to see if there is some change in our brain by using virtual reality. What he discovered is that when you use virtual reality, your hippocampus, above all, I simplify, your hippocampus is activated by virtual reality navigation. This is quite clear for us, because hippocampus is where you record your memories, but is also the place in your brain where you compute all the information about space and about your body. So it seems that when you use virtual reality, since you do not have the normal space, you have an egocentric view, a forced egocentric view of the world, you are forced to activate the hippocampus area, and people who activate the hippocampal area managed the pain better than the other. Probably this is due to distractions, as explained by Hoffman. But distraction is not the only thing that managed virtual reality. It seems that there is a strong relationship between the environments that you navigate, even in the real issues, not only virtual reality, but also in the reality. A strong relationship between the space and the body, since the body and the space are both computed at hippocampal level. So when you work on environments, you are working also on your body. And this is very interesting, because means that you can you can change the environment settings, and in some way you are changing also your body settings. And Hoffman used this to reduce pain that is a body-related dysfunction problem. Okay? I extremely simplified in this short time, but I gave you the general idea. There are other applications of virtual reality, for example, substance abuse and alcohol abuse, that is typical, where virtual reality is used to expose to subjects who are recovering from this abuse, and to induce less temptation to go back to the abuse. Another interesting use is the obesity. In Auxologico, we have in one of our hospitals, we have a center with 300 beds for obese patients, extreme obese patients. And virtual reality is very useful for two reasons. The first reason is that can be used for educational process, to educate in a good alimentation and things like that, for good food, good practice and things like that, above all in adolescents. The second thing is that obesity is a problem related to body, and again there is a relationship between your body and the environment. But at this purpose, this is also the same for eating disorder, and for both obesity and eating disorder we did something totally different. That is the use of body swapping machine. This is a classical example where you have this kind of body exchange, where you are in a body of another person. There are a lot of techniques to put yourself in a body, in another body, but you cannot just ask to people to look at their body, and you imagine that you look at your body and this is an avatar body. You know that this is not your body. So the embodiment, that is the technique that you use to create an embodiment in the other body, need to be done with another technique, not just visual. You need a multisensory approach. The approach that you use generally is to have this, as you can see, you have like a pen that is in the mannequin, but also in the body, in the real body. So you see this like a pen in your body, and you see also in the avatar or in the mannequin. We did the same thing with virtual reality and not the mannequin. And you have this like a pen, you feel the pen in your bell, and you see the pen in the bell of the avatar. In this way there is like a match, and you embody the avatar in yourself. So you think that the avatar body is your body. By using this, you can do a lot of things. For example, we used this body swapping for an anorexic girl that were embodied in a fatter body. What happened is that these girls changed their idea of their own body, and they changed the estimate of their own body. But the real problem is that this is temporary, it's not forever. If we solve this problem, of course we won the Nobel, but it's not the case, because it's more complex than this. You have a temporary effect, but to have for a longer time, it's more and more complex. But we will see this in the next maybe 10 years to start to understand how to create a longer process and a longer treatment effect. Okay. But this has been done for example, by Slater, that I told you before, it's an important researcher in the area, that tried to put people in the Freud body. And this is very nice, because what he found is that when you embody the Freud body, you become the counselor of yourself better than when you see yourself. So it seems that they trust more to their advice when they are in the body, in the avatar of Freud. This is a strong effect. And what has been done all over the world, there are several examples, is, for example, to include in a body of black people some racists. And they discovered that they become less racist, but it's a temporary effect, unfortunately. And there are a lot of samples. So to include an anorexia in an anorexic patient in an obese body or things like that. And it's an interesting area of development in scientific issues. It's very interesting. This is one of the applications of the current application of virtual reality. But there are also other applications. I want to show you, above all, on the left upper side, where there are a lot of environments that are related to emotion. This emotion VR is an application that shows you anger, joy, fear, and anxiety, that are four essential emotions, and let you work on your emotion. So we are to an upper level, more than cognitive level, we are to the emotional level. Emotional level is in the brain, in the inner part, so it's in the limbic part, that is the reptilian brain. It's the first evolutionary part of our brain, so the older part of our brain. And it's difficult to reach that part of your brain. So to stimulate that part of the brain with emotions has, of course, an effect also on cognitive level and also on disease, for example. And in particular, you can use for emotional regulation, also in combination, for example, with the biofeedback that you see on the right upper side of this figure. Biofeedback can be done also in virtual reality. For example, we created a fire that is high when you are stressed, and when you become more and more less stressed, more relaxed, the fire goes down. But the fire dimension is related to your heart rate variability. This means that when you are able to regulate your heart rate variability, you are able to decrease the fire level. In this way, you create the same logic of biofeedback, but in virtual reality. Of course, to see this stimulus and this stimuli in a virtual environment is more realistic and more involving for people. So it works also better than a classic biofeedback. And then I want to show you something that is very, very interesting. That is the experience of the astronauts that is not for eating disorder. And again, I wrong the title. It's VR for awe. Awe is a particular emotion that is the something like the wonderful way in which you feel that you are overcome by the hugeness of the earth, of everything. It's typical when we see something of completely new for the first time in our life. That is not just surprise, it's something more. And this is a typical experience that Edgar Mitchell here reported when he come back from the space. Now we can also bring some other one, also you, in the space with virtual reality. Of course, you can do this experience in virtual reality. Of course, it's not the same thing, but it's something that can be used to experiment new experience and to provide new emotional system to the subjects. But emotional are not only positive, but can be also negative. Is the case of stress. In stress thing, of course, you can be able to use virtual reality to reduce stress. What we did is to use teachers of classrooms in Italy, and we created a series of, as you can see below, a series of typical situations that are stressful for this teacher. Workload, class management, conflict management, and so on. The most stressful scenario has been coping with parents' criticism. Typically, parents that go to the teacher and says, "My son is the best in the world and you cannot understand him," something like that. And this is very stressful for teachers. So what we did is to create real video with green screen techniques. As you can see, these are actors that are in green, with the green screen behind them, and they are able to do this situation. And then we included this video without the green, keeping out the green, and including in virtual environment. So you have virtual environments but real actors. This is a way to create situation in virtual reality, because otherwise you have to program some avatars. So if you do not want to use the avatars, you can create situation videos, and then, as you can see here back, in all this situation you have real videos in virtual settings. Okay, another way is to create the environments and the avatars. But there is a problem that psychologists typically are not able to program. So we created, in this project, NeuroVirtual 3D, a software that can be used for virtual reality and also in computational science, because provide you a set of parameters that you can include then in models. So I'm reaching the artificial intelligence application of the virtual reality. And there are a lot of environments that are already included. I'm showing you just some environments here. In particular, these environments is the supermarket. It's a typical example because we did something like 15 articles, scientific articles, by using these environments, that is a supermarket, where we gave to the subject some tasks. In particular, we used for Parkinson, we used for obsessive compulsive disorder patients, and we use also for stroke for other patients. But this supermarket is useful because you can create some task and to tell to people go there or go there, do this and do other things, and you track all the event. So when you, for example, buy a product, there is a timestamp in a database where you know that at that timestamp, precise timestamp, he did that action. As you can understand, you can track everything. So you can create something that is the idea of use virtual reality in artificial worlds, that is to use real behavior, even networked, okay, by using virtual worlds, doing behavior emulation in a virtual setting, and then include the results or the parameters of this behavior in artificial worlds. This means in agent-based model, in other kind of model. Of course, not in pure mathematical model, but in a computational model. I did this article, Modeling Behavioral Dynamics using Computational Psychometrics within Wither World. That is an open article, so you can find it easily. And if you remember what I showed you before with the male and female and the adoption rate, I tried to create an environment where they had to adopt a behavior or not, and the rate, the adoption rate has been included in the model to estimate the results of the model, that is a system dynamic model. You can do the same thing if you do with many subjects, and you create, as we seen before, a system, in my idea also a real-time system, where you do something in virtual reality, but also in real settings, and you include the behavior that emerge from this virtual setting in simulated environments. This is useful to have like a monitor, like a control panel, where you know everything about the collective behavior and you can manage this. And in particular, you can use also biosensors, you can use for biofeedback, but also for other issues, and you track everything. For example, you have virtual reality and the simulation that you are doing in virtual reality that is tracked and is included in a database where also your physiological signals are included, and you can see your physiological signal when you have a specific event. This is real complex in real world because you cannot track the event, but in virtual reality, when you buy a product from the supermarket, this is tracked. You have an event, this launch a signal to a system that can catch this signal and include in your environment. So the general idea is to have something like this, where you have the virtual setting that include your parameters in here, as you can see in the bottom left part, in a database, but in this database you can have also information from the real world, from tablet, mobile phone, computer and so on, and everything is tracked in the right bottom part, and then in the in the right upper part, you can see all the integration of these parameters from virtual reality and real world in a unique database and a real simulation that use environments, rules and agents to manage the agent-based simulation, for example, and to understand better the human behavior in real time. Of course, you can track all of this with these physiological signals. In particular, I leave you this slide if you want, where you have also a specific contactless technologies. I like contactless technologies in physiological data because in virtual environment it's better not to put biosensors into the subject. So there are ways to track the subject behavior and the subject physiological level without include patch or other things. Above all, if you study stress, otherwise you stress by yourself the subjects. And if you want an idea of these parameters, there is this interesting article that I did, and also in mobile setting, as I already said in 2012. There is a way to use your phone to affect your state and to read your state. And above all, you can have a day level, you can randomize some stimulus, and you can track the subjects in a week or month and so on by using mobile phone. Why? Because in this way you have a full schema to reach with fuzzy system, fuzzy rules, machine learning approach. You can track, for example, the stress level, and you can reach a system like that at the very end give you, for example, the stress level that is low, medium, or high on the basics of your real settings, but also the agent-based simulation and also the behavior that other subjects show in the environments that you simulated. Okay. I hope that I explained all the situation. I know that it's complex because these are 3 or 4 things, so sorry for this complexity, but this is the way. I mean,
Thank you very much.